What is contempt of court? You see that on television all the time.
It's simply failure to follow an order of the court. So it could be lots of things.
Okay.
Contempt in the courtroom is another thing where you don't fail to follow an order, you disrupt the court somehow. And there are penalties for that. There's different rules for contempt in the courtroom or outside the courtroom, direct or indirect contempt. And again, it's simply failing to follow an order.
I would say staying away from contempt of court is a real good idea. Are there any typical things that people do that stand out in your mind as this is typically why contempt of court occurs?
It's usually not showing up for showing up for a hearing. Yeah. Okay. And that's when a warrant. I think one of your questions was about a warrant.
Yes.
So that's when a warrant's issued. So generally, there's a thing called bond or bail, and usually there's no bond or bail in a case that you're just summoned to court. So there's an order, and it's usually on a traffic ticket or even on a complaint. The police officer who writes the complaint indicates a date for you to appear, and it's a summons. You're ordered to appear pursuant to this summons. You fail to appear pursuant to that summons, and then you're subject to being arrested. Then there's a warrant for your arrest. It's also called a capias, C-A-P-I-A-S.
Okay.
It's an order for the police officer to arrest this person. Usually they're taken to jail first before they're brought to court, because the court's usually not in session at the time they get arrested.
Okay.
Also something you want to avoid.
Yeah, word to the wise.
Particularly on a weekend.
Yeah, right. Now, I would think repeated offenses, I think you talked a little bit about that before, that if you do something repeatedly, then the penalties go up.
Right, and that's most obvious in an OVI charge. So first offense OVI has certain minimum sentences. So it's minimum sentence on an OVI is 3 days in jail. So OVI is operating a vehicle while impaired or under the influence, or it used to be called DUI. So 3 days in jail, $375 fine. These are the minimums. 1 year license suspension, 6 points on your record. If you're convicted of an OVI, if in the next 10 years you are charged with another OVI for which you're found guilty, then the penalties are what's called enhanced, or they're greater. So instead of 3 days minimum, it's 10 days minimum. $525 fine minimum. 1 year license suspension, but it goes up to 7 years, and if you have privileges to drive during that suspension, you have to have an ignition interlock device installed in your car and the restricted yellow plates. So when you see yellow plates, that's a person who has multiple OVIs, convictions, but was given the privilege to drive during the suspension, limited privileges to drive to work primarily, but they have to have the yellow plates also as a condition of their privileges. And that's to alert everybody, including police officers, that this is a person who's had a couple OVIs or more, but given the permission to go to work. So if the officer pulls them over, question them about, are you within your privileges? If so, you can move on. If not, they're charged with driving under an OVI suspension, which is a first-degree misdemeanor, et cetera. Let me move on to it's like a third OVI is unusual. I mentioned before that the maximum penalty for a first-degree misdemeanor is 6 months, and anything beyond the 6 months is a felony. The exception is a third offense OVI. So third offense OVI carries with it a maximum jail sentence of 1 year in jail. So it's still a misdemeanor. It's called an unclassified misdemeanor.
Okay.
Because it's something other than a first, second, third, fourth minor. The minimum on a third offense is 30 days in jail, up to 1 year in jail, fines of $850 minimum, license suspension 2 years to 12 years, 6 points again on your license.
I guess as a society, we realize how significant driving while intoxicated is.
Sure.
It's life and death situation, right?